so far in this tournament was the 85 points he scored in the first round against Robert Morris. And even since then, and since that game, Duke has had a hard time getting to 70. Against San Diego State, they put up 68 points. Against Utah, they only scored 63. And against Gonzaga, they only scored 66. And then Wisconsin so far has been the best offensive team left here in the Final Four, as their highest point total in this tournament is actually 86. They scored 86 in the first round against Coastal Carolina, and they had 85 in the Elite Eight against Arizona. And then even then, Wisconsin in the second round against Oregon, they put up 72, and then against North Carolina, scored 79. So Wisconsin so far has been the best offensive team amongst the four teams in the Final Four. But every single team is offensively challenged, as every single team in this, every single team, you look at the four Final Four teams: Kentucky, Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Duke. And so far, Michigan State, Kentucky, and Duke, all three teams have been offensively challenged this year. In this tournament. And so, from that aspect, Geno Auriemma is 100% correct in that some of these games are hard to watch. It really is. Unless you really enjoy defense, it's hard to watch. And like he said, sometimes it's not even so much about defense. These guys simply can't score. You see a lot of bricks. Some of these games, man, these teams, man, they be going 7-8 minutes without even scoring a point on both sides. So I agree with Coach Auriemma. I agree with the 100%, and that I think the NCAA needs to do something about college basketball and change the rules. They need to shorten the shot clock. To me, 35 seconds is just ridiculous. It's too much time, and they need to quicken the pace of the game and try to get at least more scoring. Because it doesn't make sense to have a regional finals game and 68-66. They should be able to score more than that. All right, so moving on. We'll move on from college basketball to pro basketball. And the hot topic in the NBA has been the scheduling imbalance. Ever since lottery-bound Western Conference teams began winning more games than lower-seeded Eastern Conference playoff teams in the last decade, there's been a disparity between the two conferences that may have reached the all-time high this season. As right now, Cleveland, who is number 2 seed in the East, if Cleveland was in the West, they'll probably be number 7. So that just tells the disparity amongst the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference, that the 2 seed in the East will only be 7th best in the West. And so because of that, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver has proposed of changing the playoff format to where instead of having East versus the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, just completely get rid of conferences and just make it just have the top 16 teams in the league make the playoffs, which from a fan standpoint, I think it'll make it more exciting to watch, to see that. But at the same time, I don't know if it really makes any sense, only because you still might have an imbalance, only because the way things are right now, you're going to have more Western Conference teams than Eastern Conference teams. So it doesn't really give the Eastern Conference teams really that much of a chance to win the championship. And also, too, they got to fix the scheduling, because right now, Western Conference teams play mostly Western Conference teams, and Eastern Conference teams play mostly Eastern Conference teams. So therefore, they got to play an even number of games between East and West to kind of make it fair and kind of make it balance. And I don't know how they'll do that with travel and everything else. So like right now, if you go off of Silver's proposed playoff format, you would have so you have Golden State number 1, Atlanta number 2, you have Memphis number 3, Houston number 4, Portland number 5, the LA Clippers number 6, San Antonio number 7, Cleveland number 8, you have Dallas number 9, then you have Chicago number 10, Washington number 12, Oklahoma City number 13. You have hold on, I think I messed up. Okay, so yeah, Golden State number 1, Houston number 2, and the Golden State number 1, Atlanta number 2. Then you have Memphis number 3, Houston number 4, Portland number 5, LA Clippers number 6, San Antonio number 7, Cleveland number 8, Dallas 9, Chicago 10, Toronto 11, Washington 12, Oklahoma City 13, New Orleans 14, Phoenix 15, and then Milwaukee 16. So you'll basically right now, if you going off of Adam Silver's proposed format, you'll have 11 teams in the West, only 6 make it from the East. Now, so that's why I said that it might be a tricky situation. But I said it will be also too. It'll be more interesting to watch, only because who wouldn't want to see? It's like right now, see the 8. Like right now, who wouldn't want to see possibly Oklahoma City go against Atlanta in the first round, or New Orleans, Oklahoma City goes against Atlanta in the first round, or you could possibly see Cleveland take on Dallas or something like that. So I think from that aspect, make it interesting. But other than that, it's kind of risky. But we'll see how it goes. But even if they make that change, they can't make that change anyway until at least 2017 for 2017 playoff. But the league might want to address a more serious issue first before they worry about the playoffs, and that is the discrepancy between the number of back-to-back games that each team faces. So Detroit Pistons head coach Stan Van Gundy had this to say about playing back-to-backs. It's something the league needs to address, but I've got no control over it. As a coach, you play them, but that's a major scheduling imbalance. Now, I think the board of governors, who needs to bring that up, will address that in the off season. But there should be, there should be equity in scheduling. Scheduling should not be to anyone's advantage or disadvantage. To me, what we're doing on back-to-backs, where we've gotten between the teams that play the most and the teams that play the least, at 6 or 7 game disparity. We would never tolerate that in terms of home or away. If you looked at a schedule, you said, all right, they've got 45 home games, and hey, they've only got 37 road games, everybody will go crazy. But on the back-to-backs, we don't say anything. I think that is something that needs to be addressed. The more, equitable you make the schedule for everybody, the better off it is. I don't think one team should be playing 6 more back-to-backs than somebody else. But that's me. Now, Stan Van Gundy's beef with playing back-to-backs is because his Detroit Pistons have played an NBA high this season, 22 back-to-backs. That's more than any other team in the NBA this year. Now, I agree with Stan Van Gundy 100%. If you want to do back-to-backs, you got to make the schedule equal, so that way every team plays the same number of back-to-back games instead of having one team having a scheduling advantage over another. Just make it equal. Now, Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban suggested just getting rid of back-to-backs completely. Now, if you just get rid of back-to-backs, completely, then the season might not end until May, and the NBA Finals might not end until July. So it'll just make it won't make the season longer. It'll make the season longer, but they'll still play 82 games instead of playing back-to-backs. Just have the season go all the way up into May, and then the playoffs go all the way up into July. So essentially, what you're doing, if you go through Mark Cuban's plan by eliminating back-to-backs, then what you do is you just expanding the season, maybe another month. But to me, I really don't have a problem with them playing back-to-backs. I mean, hell, if hockey players could do it, why not NBA? But I just agree with Stan Van Gundy. If you're gonna have back-to-back games, that's cool, but you got to make it equal for every team. And what the NBA also needs to think about doing too is that instead of changing the playoff format and getting rid of the conferences, why not force the teams in the East to put a more competitive teams out there instead of having all these teams in the East that just seem to be tanking every year. Force the Eastern Conference teams to put a more quality team out there. Because to me, it doesn't make any sense for the teams in the East to have. It doesn't make sense for the East to be weaker than the West. It just doesn't. And I don't know what the NBA has to do to fix that, but it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like I said, if you look at the Eastern Conference standings right now, the number 2 seed in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers, if they're playing in the West, they'll be the number 7 seed. And even then, they're only 2 games ahead of Dallas right now as a 7 seed. While you look at a team like Dallas, who's number 7 in the West, if you put Dallas in the East, they'll be the 3rd seed in the East. Now, the number 3 seed in the East, the Toronto Raptors, will be the 8th seed in the West. So, I really don't understand at all why there's such a disparity amongst the 2 conferences, and this has not been going on now for the last decade. And I really don't know why. I really don't know, because growing up watching the NBA, I'm a little bit younger, so I grew up, watching the NBA in the 90s, and I don't remember this, being such a disparity amongst the East and the West. Now, for the most part, both conferences were equal, but it seems like over the last, 10, maybe over the last, 10, 15 years, it seems to be changing to where the West is more dominant than the East, and I don't really understand why that is. Because with the exception of maybe the top 4 seeds in the East, the rest of the conference, you can make the argument, really doesn't belong in the playoffs. Right now, if the season were to end today, we have Milwaukee, Miami, and Brooklyn all making the playoffs, and all 3 teams are below 500. That, to me, if you're below 500, you have no business making the playoffs. And so I don't know what the NBA has to do to fix the Eastern Conference to make them more competitive, but they got to do something because it's just ridiculous. And it's like this every single year. And like I said, it's been like this way now for like at least a decade. All right, so real quickly, maybe we're gonna go on and talk a little bit of wrestling. As this year's WrestleMania gave this week's episode of Monday Night Raw their highest rating in 3 years. And now the question is, could WrestleMania 31 rejuvenate the wrestling industry back to the heights that experienced during the 90s and the early 2000s, as far as it being a mainstream success that it was back in those times? And I think that it can.